Morrows Photos, another podcast where we talk about things that I like. I'm conflicted. I've been watching all this racing stuff. I say stuff. Every year, I look forward to the new racing season and hot rod season, customization season, car culture, everything. I love it. I love can't even talk. Make sure this thing's in my face. You can hear me. Car culture. I enjoy the car culture that we have in the world, and I enjoy everything hot rodding pretty much. Um, so yeah. So I was watching Sick Week over there in and around Florida, Georgia, and all that. They have a little circuit they're doing of so many miles, so many races, and it's neat to watch those who are hardcore uh, hot rodders, and they develop these parts, they develop these cars, they work on them for years, days, months, thousands of dollars, life savings, and all kinds of cool stories. And they build these cars, and then they drive them to the track, race them for the day, then fix them up to go travel so many miles to the next stop, stay the night, and the next day race again. And they do this for a week. It's pretty cool. I've known throughout the years where there's been bike clubs or motorcycle clubs that's done this. And then you got the people that like to drive across the country and do like what do they call that? A cannonball ish type of deal where they travel across the country, usually taking Route 66. Um, yeah, I've never done that yet. Haven't done that yet. One day, right? So yeah, you got that going on. It's neat to see um, the Cleetus McFarland group out there doing their $7,500 um, car challenge, and different drivers that have been rocking it out for the last couple of days. And it's neat because these people are getting tested. Most of them are going through uh, tuning issues with transmission, gearboxes, batteries. But it's neat to see the engineering and the intuitiveness that some of us have and that you watch on these programs. Um, Electric fuel pump, for instance. Cletus showed where you can hook up a, what do you call it? I don't know what you call it. The deal for the battery pack to lock in on. They wired that to the electric fuel pump, and then put a battery into that bracket to charge the fuel pump to go when he was going down the drag strip to make sure he had enough battery life to keep the fuel pump pumping at full maximum capacity. I never would have thought of that back when I was working on cars in the '90s to use a battery pack to operate a fuel pump or a water pump. But those are the things that we have now. Now I might have done it now. I have several different lights that I use that are wireless that have pretty good little well, they have a block, and then it locks on two batteries, the same batteries that could go into a monitor and some different devices that I have. And so I could see doing something like that now where I could use the bits and pieces off my lights or different things that I have that controls the stuff that I have to operate lights, car stuff. I'm always rigging something up in my car, especially with brackets. I love figuring out how to um, hide or fix the video cameras and the GoPros, and used to when I was teaching different same wavelength. So stay with me. When I was teaching the criminal justice and I was teaching crime scene investigation, I would use different devices that you'd have at your fingertips, like a selfie stick, your cell phone, to do your first pass of a crime scene. And I would teach the students how to use that. Then I would set up, and then having to set crime scenes up, I was always coming up with ways to build gadgets to either shoot or project blood or some sort of splatter, rigging stuff up, and that's that kind of engineering and intuitive thinking is cool. It's cool to kind of have in your brain, and to be able to think, wait a minute, if I rig this shirt with a tube underneath that goes to a CO2 cartridge from what do you call it, with the trigger that airs up a bike tire. Take the CO2 cartridge, you got the trigger, it's a little handheld deal, and it shoots air out into the tube, and it has like a little tube to it that'll air up a 10-speed bicycle tire. So what I would do is I would extend that tube, and then I would pour blood in that, and then I'd rig it up into the inside of a shirt, cut a little hole in the shirt, duct tape the tube to the shirt, and then rig the trigger off to the side. And then as the whatever action scene we were doing, all that person had to do was some way, some fashion, however we did it, trigger that deal, and it would shoot blood when that person was shot, hit, stabbed. One time I had a deal where the student, we faked it where he used a fake axe, and he hit me in the chest, and then I shot blood out. We were outside, and the students got to, I don't know if I can grab it or not. It used to be right here by my feet. I might have moved it. Yeah, it's gone. But but I had a fake axe, and then he would like act like he was going to attack me with it, and then and I'd shoot blood out, and the students just ate it up. And then after that, I would have the students act out, and do the crime scene investigation. So the same thing with these cars, man. They just, Cleetus and these different people that I've watched, his group. I don't remember all their names, but yet I've met them in person, several of them, back in 2020 and 21. 2020 and 21. But the way they come up with some of this stuff, and it's cool. It's cool. It brings back a lot of memories of my friends and I when we used to hot rodder cars and stuff when I was in high school, and for several years after that, until I decided to get into becoming a firefighter, and well, after a firefighter, when I was a firefighter and cop, and then worked my way up into being a professor. I kind of moved on to what kind of types of things that I built. So it's been a little while since I built a car, but it's not out of sight or untouchable, but it's just something that I haven't been able to do in the present. But you never know. Never know. Neat stuff. So what are y'all into? Are there different types of hobbies, arts, crafts, or events that y'all look forward to attending every year, or maybe every so many years, or however that works? I know we watch a lot of that Big Bang Theory. I know that's a show, but they talk about all these Comic Cons, and I've been to a couple of them, and it's neat to see how people come up with their costumes too. Ingenuity, right? And how that some of these people build their costumes and different things like that they fix up to do the Comic Cons. It's pretty wild. I know that I had a friend of ours that she did. Um, she was from India. I don't remember where at in India, but she taught the uh, certain dances that the ladies learn when they as they grow up, and she would put on their customary outfit that the women would wear, and then she did the paint on their fingers in different places, and it was beautiful. It was what do you call those other ladies from Japan? I might get this wrong. I want to say geisha, but I don't know if that's the right word. I guess we can look it up, but I don't feel like it. But yeah, where they have all they're fully dressed up into their customary outfits, and some of that is really cool. Of course, I'm getting off track a little bit, but that's all right. But yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah, one of the things that talk about the ingenuity and building stuff. Uh, I always enjoyed, especially when I was doing some of the car culture around Circuit of Americas when we were dealing with doing the rolling shots, where we were trying to do some of the higher end things where you record, Lamborghini, Mercedes, AMG, GTRs. What else was it? Ferraris, Lamborghinis, whatever the car was, you wanted to show off its capabilities, its cool vision, the person who's driving it without having all this gear hanging out and looking, I don't know what you call that. It's not a deal breaker, but just try to hide it as much as possible and then go collect the data and compile a video form later on, or rolling shots or whatever you're trying to do, and yeah, pull off different angles and cool audio, and then compile it all together depending on what you're doing. So yeah, and I've done it in with the Influence magazine of San Antonio. I only did a couple of episodes for them, but setting up the studio for one-on-one interviews. Um, I've done impromptu interviews where you just got to do what you got to do out in the middle of nowhere in the dark. We say like if it was a car crash or some sort of event, and then you're maybe interviewed on the side after things are taken care of, where you got to figure out what lighting, and or whatever, or just you got to do what you got to do at the moment, all the way to a pre-planned situation. To me, it doesn't matter if I'm well organized, educated to the max, or flying by the seat of my pants. Things always seem to work out, even though my mind says they won't. And my mind's going, all right, and trying to think of a million things at once to what if, what if, what if, what if, what if, because that's just the way I've drilled it in my head to be prepared for what might happen next that you didn't think about. But always try to have enough stuff or abilities to get through whatever what you might get into. Situational awareness, you got to have a certain type of capabilities, alertness, situational awareness. I don't know, I've already said, just being attuned to the present and allowing your God-given or the universe's abilities that were given to you, allow them to work, however you want to say that. So yeah, when I was a firefighter, I always worried about not knowing enough, not being able to be enough, have enough, do enough. When I was a cop, same thing. Always worried about enough. Did I study enough? Was I prepared enough? I never had a situation that occurred that I could think of right this second that my weight, physical being, what do you call it, out of shapeness or in shapeness, those things never uh, gotten away, but they could have. And I always worried about those. Of course, being a young guy and having things happening around me all the time, you kind of get, I don't know, acclimated to stuff happening around you a little bit. And I know that at 16, or when I had helped my brother with there was a big truck wreck in Crockett County out on the interstate, and we helped the truck driver get up in the ambulance on the cot, that he hung off all sides of the cot, meaning he was more than 6 foot. He was probably closer to 6'7", 6'8". He weighed probably well over 300 pounds. So, and there was only, I don't want to lie, it's been forever. Anyways, there was only a few of us there. And so you had to get him in the ambulance. And so you give it all you got. And then later on, you realize that your uh, body aches and pains that occur throughout your life, you're like, wonder what I did there. Oh, yeah, no wonder I can't touch my toes and tie my shoes or whatever the situation might be at 16. Then you figure out years later that when you were sitting in elementary school or junior high and you had pain in your spine, that you had something else going on, but I was told by my parents that it was a growing spurts. And then and then I always tried to be ready to take care of whatever happened around me. So I just did what you're supposed to do. If somebody needed help moving a refrigerator, a dryer, a washer, you did it. And then of course, as you'll find out through some of this, if I talk long enough, that I had car crashes and burning buildings and houses and bowling alleys and different things that happened around me ever since I was little. And so you had to just, mind my own business, car crash, driving down the road. Oh my gosh, house on fire. You jump out, make sure everybody's out of the house, make sure everybody's out of the bowling alley, make sure, if someone needs first aid after they, crash their car, different things. Then of course I was a fire. Well, I mean, that led me into being a firefighter and then law enforcement. But through all that, I was told at 30, these aches and pains um, kept on going. And then you find out that the doctor at 30 says, Sean, you need to quit doing stuff over your head. Okay. I was a cop. I was a firefighter. How am I supposed to stop doing things over my head? So, two surgeries here. C6, C7 was first, where I had hyperextended my neck, and then and that was in 2006. And then I had my rotator cuff surgery and bone spur on my left. Then in 22, I had C5, C6 gave out. T7 needs operated on. T9 don't look too happy. And then what is it down there? L5, L4 don't look happy. L1, L2 don't look happy. Ankylosing spondylitis of the spine does not help, especially when you have that, along with what they call, what's that guy's name? Gary Brecka likes to talk about the MTHFW, I believe it's called, gene mutation, of where you have um, from your genetics that you can be passed down by your parents, where things do not methylate right. Certain drugs and food do not absorb right into your nutrition or absorption into your body. So now I'll have one bad gene, I have two of those genes. So that also affects the ankylosing spondylitis and how I get easily inflamed. And so not only did I have this issue with my body, but I also decided to have a emergency service career for a short period of time. At least it feels short to me, and it builds up my aches and pains a lot more. I noticed that there was a continuation of the first version of the podcast. I had about 17 minutes, so I talked about um, what do you call it, engineering and ways to build and have some intuitiveness inside your brain to be able to make things happen no matter where you're at. It's always nice to be able to, uh, well, growing up in that type of atmosphere, I noticed that even when I was in emergency services, especially in law enforcement, you never knew what you were going to come up about or come up against. Okay. People, situations, uh, calls of service that might test your physical, your mental, you never know. Throughout a 12-hour shift, it was not uncommon to have different cultures, three or four different cultures, maybe different languages, all in a 12-hour period. You might meet someone from the Middle East. You'd have someone from, Bangladesh or Japan, or someone with a handicap. I had a situation one time where I pulled over a guy a family that was traveling at a high rate of speed, and he was deaf. And as I came up to the car, I did my typical, good afternoon, Officer Morrow with the Winters PD Police Department. Can I have your license and insurance, please? And I'm like, excuse me? And then he, you know, oh, so I took out my, got my pad out, wrote down what I said, showed it to him. Mm-hmm. That's what I need. Mm-hmm. Here's your light. Here's your ticket. Mm-hmm. Because he was speeding. Not only that, but there was if I have my facts straight, I believe it was around Halloween season, and he had a kid or two that was not in a car seat that was supposed to be buckled up. So he took those tickets and liked it instead of getting more tickets. And that's one thing, a pet peeve of mine is your kids and the people in the vehicle have to be secure. Safety first, okay? But yeah, the guy, so you never know what you're going to run up against in a situation. Same thing with firefighting. You go to a call of service, someone's sick, someone's needs an ambulance. Now I didn't do the EMT thing, but I was a first responder. I took the course and all that. Just never followed through with the rest of it because my life changed at that time. And I'll get into that later. But I would roll with the fire department. Let's see, from 90, I might have this a little off, but from 94 to 2005 ish. I had a little bit more than that. That's true. And, but anyways, I volunteered and I was a paid firefighter. And then I was in law enforcement as well, but you never know what you're going to run up against. And so you want to be able to handle whatever situations you get yourself into. If that's physical, if definitely mental, okay? But also cultures, man. Learn a little. Get outside your box. Get outside your box and find out what other people learn and like besides you. Okay. Now, I started this podcast talking about how this podcast is about stuff that I like, but I also know that I like things that you like and that other people around the world like too. And we have a lot of things in common than we do apart. Case in point, dealing with a certain situation. Maybe you have a person who's irate or someone who's intoxicated, either alcohol or drugs or whatever the case may be. They start acting a fool, and you show up. And if you can find common ground without setting those people off, that you can de escalate every situation, good luck. But that's what you want to do is de escalate most situations. You want to de escalate the situation, kind of sort of take control if you have to. And then if you have to make an arrest, you do it. Drop the hammer and arrest immediately. Anytime you have to arrest someone, for those in law enforcement, the more time it takes when you announce you're under arrest, the more time there is when that comes out or that's applied, okay, to the time you have them in handcuff and secure, the more time there is in there, the more stuff that can happen. So once you make that call of you're under arrest, it has to happen now. Swift, boom. Okay, it's a secure thing. A lot of stuff goes sideways once that's applied where someone knows that they're under arrest. Move that aside. Still got to be ready to rock and roll whenever that occurs. But we have a lot of other things that we can take care of before we even talk about law enforcement and all that. Maybe you're going to be a father. Maybe you're going to be a brother, aunt, and uncle, whatever the situation may be. Good friend, good family member. You still got to be ready to apply yourself whenever that situation occurs. And it's good to work on those abilities and say, like, if you're, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something. I've even had people have a little road rage around me. I'm not perfect at this, but if I see someone trying to aggravate me for whatever reason, I've had a couple times where I'll ask questions. Hey, is there a problem with your car? Can I help you? Can I help you fix something so that the situation doesn't get worse? Good luck. I had a problem one time when I was minding my own business, going from point A to point B, from my house to wherever I needed to go. And on the way back, I noticed that there was smoke in over by the park, in the weeds and the grass and the brush where there shouldn't be smoke coming out of. So I drove my car up in there. And when I got out and approached, I noticed there was two homeless guys, both with shirtless. One had a lot of muscle, shaved head, looked like a bad dude, and they were trying to put out a fire that they had started by accident in the brush. And the one guy was cussing out the other guy. And I had my camera on because I know how these things are. And I wasn't sure what I was going to run up against. I had my camera on and I was calling 911. Get a report of a fire back here, because I saw smoke. And then when I saw what was going on, I was like, oh. And they looked at me, and the one guy started coming at me. Hey, 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 what are you doing? What are you doing? And I was like, uh-oh. In my mind, I'm like, don't fight, don't fight, don't fight. And as he got closer, I said, hey, I got the flu. I'm sick, man. You don't want to get it. I've been really sick. I didn't realize y'all are okay. And I started backing out. And he's like, don't call the cops. Don't call the cops. Oh, I'm not. I'm not. I was just making sure y'all were safe. About that time, here come a fire truck. Here come a cop. And I'm backing out because I don't want to get in an escalated situation, you know. But I wasn't going to just let the whole place burn down. I didn't know what was back there. Okay. The cops were saying that they needed back in there because they had a lot of homeless people that had been camping back there. And when we went to go check it out, they had a whole system where the brush had growed up around the park where kids play on the one side by the river had growed up, and they had these lanes built through the brush where they can get away and hide when they stole stuff from the storage buildings and the stores nearby. They would either go under the bridge on one side, hightail it underneath the bridge, and then when they'd come up and under from the bridge, the brush and the mesquite and all that, there were like three paths you could take. And then when you went back in there, it got a little bit more, but there's other stuff. But they had a whole makeshift tent or a campsite back there. They had a real tall couple of trees that they had this white, oh, it wasn't a sheet, it was a little heavier than a sheet, put up on this white rope where they were watching TV. They had a couch, they had a barbecue pit, they had all the stolen stuff, big old pile of junk over there. And so, yeah, very interesting. But I know I got off track. This is my storytelling, okay? And I was just a citizen, and the cop was like, yeah, we've been having lots of break ins over here at these storage buildings, and this makes sense, and blah, 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 blah. So I recorded all that and then put it on social media on Facebook, and then tagged the chief of police where I lived and let them know that this was what was going on next to where the kids play at the park. And that was several years ago. But you got to be ready, man. You never know what you're going to run up against. Situational awareness, work out just a little bit, exercise, walk. Jiu-jitsu is awesome, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Some sort of cardio, a little bit of, usable strength is what you need, and just work on this. You see a danger, you get out of there. You see something you don't like, get out of there. But if you see danger or you see someone drinking and driving or something worse, don't be a putz. Call it in. You can always be wrong. Apologize if you're wrong. But I'm the type of person when the screen goes off in the movie theater, I have to say something because I'm not going to be the idiot sitting there when everybody else is waiting. So there you go. There's my storytelling for tonight. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.